In these last weeks, I've been talking to you about Napoleon Hill's Science of Success and the principles that comprise that success system. I use the word principles here in the same sense that an engineer would talk about engineering principles, which really are universal laws. In the same sense that a mathematician would be speaking of the mathematical principles, a scientifically established set of rules that govern mathematics. You do know that we are living entities that share in common the spirit that has created and governs the universe. And this is a universe of law or principle. In the early stages of our unfolding, of our awareness, there's a tendency for us to resist the law because we think the law is not for us, but that somehow it might be against us. And when we begin to come to understand, though, that by conforming to an already established set of rules or principles, that we begin to discover ourselves and hidden or latent possibilities that empower us. The more we can understand about the law of life, the law of the universe, the more perfectly we can begin to function as persons. And in that understanding, we begin to unfold and have experiences that we then label or call success. And success is not something that happens to us, it's something that happens from us. The first of the principles that we will be talking about this evening is the maintenance of sound physical and mental health. And it's very important, I think, for us to begin to become aware that we cannot separate the body and the mind, because they are to be considered one, and that anything that affects the health and vigor of the mind will also affect the body. We must keep in mind that we are a mind-body, but with perhaps this emphasis. Most of us have thought of ourselves as being physical beings, products of our body, if you will. Even thinking of ourselves as having a physical brain, and that our intelligence was an emanation from or a reflection of the energy of that physical organism. Perhaps the time has come for us to reverse that concept and to begin to see ourselves as being certainly a mind-body connection, but to understand that the mind takes precedence over the physical body. Now, probably the most important single quality necessary to sound mental health is a positive mental attitude and all that this entails. And the reason that this is so important to the body is that the mind literally controls the body. There is an innate intelligence that is in charge of all of the functions of the body. Think at this moment of the millions of capillaries that are opening and closing so that your blood pressure remains just as it should remain. Your temperature is under constant control. Your body is always monitoring itself. But what monitors itself? Is there not an intelligence, a mind self or substance there? And the moment there is any disrepair, there is an action that begins to take place, a healing, restorative action, without you having to take thought, conscious thought, but Your mind is always in charge of its progeny, its creation, that it occupies. Your body is but a vehicle, a physical vehicle that your mind walks around in. Do you ever think for a moment about all of the cells and tissues with, the blood and the fluids inside? You're about 98% water. And you don't even leak. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now back to the statement that I just made a moment ago. The single most important influence that your body can receive is a positive mental attitude. Doctors did not know or accept this until recent times. Or maybe a physician here or there understood it, but the medical profession is now becoming aware of the power of a positive mental attitude. Often makes the difference between life or death. I know you've seen it make that difference in some person's life, and this could not be unless the influence of the mind takes precedence over the influence that the body has on the mind. Now, remember that we must keep them both in perspective. Each influences the other because they are so closely aligned. And if you and I wish to have a sound physical body and a strong, fully functioning mind with the proper mental health, it will come from understanding how these two aspects of our nature work together as an exquisitely functioning machine. One of the things that's so important for both the mind and the body is to have a definite major purpose and a plan for carrying out that purpose. Have you noticed that in those times in your life when you were sort of vacillating, you did not know where you were going, or how you were going to get there? It could be in the course of a day or an afternoon, or in a relationship, or time in which you were just drifting. You began to experience a dis-ease, anxiety, worry, apprehension comes in to the mind, and this experience will translate itself in the body in ways that are sometimes absolutely amazing. But in those moments when you were well organized, you had a plan, anxiety seems to disappear. The moment that you know what you're doing, where you're going, and have some idea of how you will arrive at that destination, peace comes. Anxiety disappears. Let me give you an example. Vacation time. Is there anyone here that does not like to take a vacation? If there is, raise your hand. Long before your vacation arrives, you are thinking about where you will go. You're making plans, aren't you? Your mind begins to outline. It begins to become structured. You establish for your vacation period a definite major purpose or goal. You can feel the warm southern winds fanning your cheeks if it's wintertime and you're about to take a cruise. You, in that moment, begin to transfer to your subjective mind the concepts and the feelings, and peace comes. Notice how in those moments that fear also seems to vanish. And I mention fear because one of the most important things that we have to replace if we wish to be the healthy sound-minded persons that we are destined to be, is to eliminate fear. And the only way to do that is with understanding and faith. To begin to see ourselves as we really are, and also to begin to establish a proper relationship between ourselves and infinite intelligence, or the powers that govern and control the universe. Do you know that fear is usually not a reaction to a specific danger, but a thoroughly learned habit of response, perhaps learned in early childhood? Did you know that? Most of the fears that we have today do not exist because of the circumstances that exist in our lives today. We are rehearsing old, learned responses to life. And we take those learned responses and transform them into today's events. We bring them forth with us. And as long as we have decided to be afraid, then we have to establish for ourselves, and it's very easy to do, a classification of things to be afraid of. We create the things that we are comfortable being afraid of. And then when those things occur, we can be afraid. Not because we're afraid, but because we have learned that response to life. Well, the only way to separate ourselves from fear is to begin to practice these principles of success in all of our affairs. Establishing a definite major purpose, recreating a more conscious contact with infinite intelligence, and going through the success principles that you and I have been working with for the last few weeks, and that we've been practicing in our daily lives. And tell me that you've been practicing these principles. We haven't just been talking about them, have we? Have you been working with these success principles? And in so doing, have you discovered in the most amazing way that they do work for you? That your life is dramatically changed? I was in the beauty parlor Tuesday morning. I have my hair done where Karen gets hers done. The person that styles my hair is there. And it was early in the morning. She was the first one in the building, and I came just a few minutes later. And she could not wait to get me seated to begin to tell me about a person who happens to be in this room at this moment. This young man has been coming to that beauty parlor, hairstyling parlor, for more than 2 years. And the girl that was working on my hair and another one made a deal about 18 months ago that each of them would take him on alternate visits, because he was about as much as two of them could handle. He was so absolutely negative in his outlook on life. He didn't like his job, didn't like his life, didn't like what they did for him. It didn't matter what it was that they did. He never seemed to be satisfied. His remarks were cutting, never smiling. And she said, "You've got a miracle over at your place." She told me what his name was, and of course I knew who she was talking about. The changes that have taken place in this young man are the result of practicing these success principles in his life. The changes that have taken place in him are reflected in his whole demeanor, his whole attitude. And the response from those people is so changed. They love to have him come and to hear the positive things that he's sharing with them. He tells them how wonderful life is, how great things are for him. She said it's the most remarkable thing, most wonderful thing. At the end of that story, the owner of the beauty parlor came in, and she said, "But you've got to hear about," and she named a woman who happens to be sitting here right now. Told me how depressed she was. For several years she came to that shop, and they'd just about given up. They tried everything they knew to make her beautiful, and nothing worked. How can you feel beautiful on the outside when inwardly you feel so out of touch, so out of tune? She began to work with these principles. And the change is just dramatic. Dramatic. Now, you may not believe what I'm about to tell you. When she finished telling me about, I will call her Helen, the telephone rang on the desk, and it was someone calling to make an appointment. That person happens to be right here. Right now. I just looked at her. I'll look the other way so that none of you will know who it is. And when I heard the name being spoken so that it could be written down, I smiled. And when the operator came back, she said, "You know her too?" And I said, "You bet I do." And we talked about the absolutely glorious transformation that has taken place in that person's life as the result of these principles, practicing them. You see, we're dealing with a system of success that works inside us and transforms us and then begins to touch and change and work its powerful magic in the minds of other persons around us. They become influenced, inspired. You see, what happens to you is important to the whole world because you're a part of it. You're a part of a living universe that responds. Many years ago, the French psychologist Émile Coué gave the world a very simple but practical formula for the maintenance of health, both in mind and body, in one sentence. I remember hearing this sentence when I was a child. He said, "Every day in every way, I am getting better and better." 50 years ago, that was a household statement. Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. Every day in every way, I am getting better and better. It works, and the reason that it works is because we impress upon the subconscious mind this concept. We sow the seed of thought that every day I'm getting better and better. And for most people, that is a remarkable change of thought because we have lived, many of us, full seasons upon this planet believing that each and every day in every way our lives were getting worse and worse, and we could prove it. Now, don't tell me that you have not had moments in which you knew that things were not going to work out. Someone asked you why they weren't going to work out. You said, because I know they're not. I am conditioned to believing that things don't work out. And if they do work out, then wait just a little while and it will go wrong because everything that works out right will go wrong. Now, haven't you believed that? And have you not had the occasion to smile when your life did not work out right and you had been convincing other persons that it wouldn't, and then when it didn't, you turned to them and smiled and said, "See, I told you, look, it's not working." Why not come to believe that your life is working out and that each and every day in every way your life is getting better and better? Because it works. It really does work. Let's get back to the body for a moment and think about 2 or 3 or 4 of the things that are very important to the body. And one of those first things is to understand the purpose for food. You know that some of us have forgotten what food is for. It is to maintain the body's 1,400 systems and to keep them in good repair and fully functioning. Food is not intended to delight the guests, to satisfy the social ambitions of the hostess, or lull the boss or the prospective customer into a raise or a contract. And it was never intended as a discipline or correction for a child. If you don't eat your spinach, you can't have your dessert. the body needs the energy that comes from the food. It's important to know that so that we can begin to see and keep in perspective the balance that is important to eating. And I say that to you because if we have not been eating correctly, very important to begin to think in terms of the proper balance, and if you've been eating too much so that your body is presenting itself to the world in a way that does not please you, it's very important that you seek the kind of special attention and help that's so readily available now. There's so many groups and support groups that can be a part of you getting that important facet of your life under control. There are rhythms in life, and one of those rhythms is relaxation, which means the complete forgetting of the worries and problems of the day. Some of the most successful people have learned to not only spend a period of time in meditation in the morning and probably at the end of the day, but to have many moments in the course of the day of relaxation, many moments of relaxation. In recent months, I found myself so busy that I was not meditating in the mornings as I should. As a matter of fact, there were many mornings that I walked away from the house without spending the time that has become such an important part of my life. Have you discovered how easy it is to break a good habit? Much easier to break a good habit than it is a not so good habit, isn't it? And I decided right then, when I caught myself, I was going to get back into the habit of spending that time in prayer and meditation, and I have, and it has been just a glorious experience. But in the course of each day, I for years and years and years, have practiced a system of relaxation, turning away from what I'm doing at the desk, or when the telephone reaches for my attention, to use that as a time to give my complete, undivided attention to the person that I'm talking to, taking me away from where I was. And then, before I go back to my work, to spend a few seconds, sometimes a few minutes, looking out the window. Just being aware, not aware of the work that's at hand, the pressures that are there, just being, enjoying, particularly feeling in tune with life as I've come to understand life. And I recommend for all of us that we develop a system of well-disciplined moments of meditation and relaxation. And sleep is something that we need. Probably not as much as some of us think that we do. 8 hours maximum. I've discovered that I can get along with the amount of sleep that I can get to. Sometimes I can't get to as much as I want to, but if I make the decision that that amount of sleep will leave me rested and relaxed and refreshed, it does. It does. It's amazing how it does it. Something I learned many years ago was that my mind never sleeps. My subconscious mind never sleeps. It never sleeps. And before I go to sleep, I frequently turn certain projects over to my mind. Now, notice that I did not say problems. Projects. Don't turn problems over to your mind, because there will be a tendency to turn negative emotions over. You see, your subconscious mind does not know negative emotions until you implant them there, but it is incredibly capable of arriving at the most sophisticated solutions to any project that you might give it. It has resources not known to us. It's plugged into infinite intelligence. It knows exactly what you need to know, and not just in the form of information, but your subconscious mind can actually create the conditions that will become the solution.
This program is continued on the opposite side.